See. There you got just about everything I need here. How's everybody doing tonight? Move some stuff around, just slightly adjust for audio so everybody can hear the lovely sound of my keyboard clacking away. And is that my chat window? Which is my chat? Feeling good, Darian. Good to hear from you. How was your vacation, buddy? There's a gnat inside. Oh, hello. Hey Wolf, how do you do, fellow gamers? I find myself doing fairly well. Fairly well. Okay. For some reason, my little chat bubble disappeared at some point, but that's fine. That's okay. I'm not too worried or concerned about it. Give me just a second to pull up my little notes here. Darian says they're better every time I come home and my basement is not flooded. That sucks, buddy. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That kind of sucks. Oh, goodness. So, it's been a long week at work, and I'm finally working full time. I'm doing college as well at the same time, which is joyous. I really enjoy Actually, really enjoyed it. In spite of the fact that I got off to a late start and missed a bunch of assignments, I was kind of expecting to do that already. So, as long as I don't fail any classes, I'm not too worried about it. Something in my mouth. Oh, it's gone now. So clearly it wasn't important. Okay. So there's a few topics. I gotta stop that that so thing. It's like starting the if I start the sentence really enthusiastic, I can basically stall for myself. Here's a little phrase, a little utterance, just a syllable that I could choose that isn't or ah. Because so is a little bit more difficult to vocal fry, I guess. I think that's the only reason I'm actually doing it. I can't think of another explanation. So there it is. No, that's probably fine because I'm using it in the middle of a sentence. But anyways. And anyways is of course the one that I use at the end of sentences when I don't know what to say. That's not the case right now. We're good. We're good. We're fine. I have a few things to discuss. We have the previous Whick round table panel that I was on a couple of weeks ago here, which was fun. I think Harmony Gringer and I were going to do a show about it at some point, and that didn't pan out. Unfortunate. I was looking forward to it, but that's okay. Then, of course, we have a panel that I'm going to be on this Friday that's going to be even more entertaining, I suspect, even though it's something I don't really care about. Because I don't know if you guys heard about this, there's something called the Crit Awards. I was not nominated, so I don't really feel compelled to compelled to defend these people, which is okay because, of course, I hadn't put out a product in a while, except for Seven Willows, but those were a tiny release. Oh, I know. Where do I want to source the link for this? I know now. They made a statement quite recently saying that we at the Crit Awards are going to not... We're not going to identify, or we're not going to nominate anybody who identifies as a Zionist or promotes Zionist material. Our apologies, Destiny. I guess you're not going to be nominated for the Crit Awards. So Sands of Scoria, or Tombs of Scoria, whatever it was, is out. Very unfortunate. That's okay. So they released this announcement, and then shortly thereafter, they announced that they were not going to be attending Gen Con. They said that they are choosing. What is it? They're not going to be able to return to Gen Con due to safety concerns. I'm not really sure what that means. Did they decide that they were going to not participate in Gen Con? Did Gen Con say that they were not going to? That they're not going to let them host this panel here or host the award? And who invented the term safety? Who invented the reason or excuse safety being why these people weren't going to participate? I don't know. And we're probably not going to find out Friday. However, we're going to get disgustingly personal, I'm sure. And we're going to have a fun bit of internet blood sports, a little bit of internet radio. I think it'll be fun this Friday on the subject. So that's exciting. Next bit is that I have started a Substack. I have not actually posted anything just yet. I would like to start by posting a recent Twitter thread I did on mysteries, which is probably going to take up a little bit of our fun stream tonight. And I am in the process of transferring all of the content from Ash of Creativity, the current website, over to Bluehost instead of Squarespace, because Squarespace provides me literally no value whatsoever. I don't think it ever has. It's just been an extra $300 bill every year. I could just transfer the domain over to Bluehost as well, so I'm not particularly concerned about that either. Yeah, so that's what's going on there. And the last thing is I've been obsessively playing a little bit of FTL. One of my notes for tonight was I was supposed, if I had time earlier today, between watching the recorded lecture for my classes and working, obviously, I wanted to watch John Mollison's series on Traveler, and specifically vector-based combat, because of course the idea cycle started up again. The most worthless part of me is the idea cycle. I started getting excited about the idea of like a little, I don't know, just a little maybe ink-based video game or something like that that would be primarily focused on Traveler's vector-based combat, or using that as like the core conceit. And that led me back into one. I've been playing Nebula's Fleet Command obsessively, so much so that I had to uninstall it. But like, all right, that was a great binge while I was horrifically ill and sick. I'm no longer sick, by the way. Turns out it was pneumonia. But a short course of Z-Packs, they did away with that, especially once I felt like I didn't have a choice because I started coughing up a little bit too much blood, so... we fixed that, yeah, we fixed that up. I'm no longer worried about it. Yo, hi, Hugh Forsaker. So I'm horrifically behind on everything. That's totally fine. Not making any promises as to what I'm going to do next, because... the only one promise I can give is the things that I am doing next is I am building up a content, not a vault necessarily, just like a store, a lead that I can rely on for video production and for going back to, there's that again, like rely on for video production and articles, basically just about everything. So all I'm doing right now is just work in the back end that allows me to while I'm doing live streams like this, or while I'm going on other panels, or while I'm having fun just about anywhere else, I don't have to worry about like a momentary blip in my schedule throwing off my schedule for something like the next month and making everything late the next month, which of course just compounds over time. I don't want to have to deal with that. So I'm not. That's why I haven't been putting out videos as often. Recently, it's like, oh, that got 133 views? I don't really care about that. So Beowulf says, not gonna lie, some parts of that debate were frustratingly annoying. Not on yours or Harmony Grincher's part, though. I did not find it nearly as frustrating as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was generally, it was generally respectful, which was a little bit, that was probably the most frustrating part, is how respectful it was, and how not in the weeds, or how I don't know. It just, I didn't feel throughout the course of that debate like I was constantly getting slathered in mud, like I was arguing with people lesser than me. I appreciated the commitment to the bit, basically, that these people insisted, hey, we're just using a term in one way, and you're using a term in this other way. However, we're really doing the same things at our tables, which is an interesting. That's often, I think, kind of the first hurdle to a lot of people engaged in debate. That's like the biggest first obstacle you could come across is, I think that these two opposite points that we're arguing about right now are really the same, which means any differences that you have with my definition right now are fringe, marginal, and by implication, not actually important. This isn't something my opponents were doing intentionally by any stretch of the imagination, I don't think. J-Mac's pretty cool, or is that J-Mac? That's his name, yeah. Yeah, J-Mac is pretty cool. Philip, pretty cool. Love Whick, as always. Gringer, not... Gringer. Harmony Gringer, not my opponent, of course, but also just fun. I don't think anybody was doing that intentionally here, but I do think it's a side effect, a natural side effect of taking two opposite points that people are debating and reducing your differences, your preferences, whatever you are arguing in favor of, diminishing it, reducing it down. Everybody, I think everybody expected much worse at the start, and then it was clear that, like, okay, some of the people in chat are going to be unhinged and insane, sure, but these people are perfectly reasonable. It continued for a little bit in Wick's Discord, actually, when we kept going back and forth. Why are you telling people to focus on the sandbox and not on the narrative? Or people, that was the implied question behind this statement. I'd like to do both at my table. It's like, sorry, that's not really a thing. And if I understand the confusion. You might have a game that has a little bit more of a narrative focus, or you might have built up a library over some number of decades of a world that has some history to it and some personal investment from the players, even new players, because they could see that other previous players have been personally invested in it. Obviously, you should follow suit, and that's not really what we're talking about here when we're talking about narrative. We're discussing it's a red herring, maybe a Trojan horse, designed to sneak in the much more insidious problem. What do they mean by narrative focus? Here we go. The much more insidious problem of railroads, scripted events, over-designed encounters, over-designed plot threads or beats or adventures that must progress in a specific fashion or must progress to a specific endpoint and which you may not ignore. You, the player, may not ignore. And this is not done through the game. This is not... When people come up with a final big bad boss or a specific adventure structure, this is not done through the game. This is not done through conceits of the game or modifications to the game. It's done by ignoring the game. In Chilma's Valley, of course, people are familiar with Gelatinous Valley, some of my viewers at the very least. We're going to look at the overworld map because it's been progressing again. The ice is coming down from the Twin Peaks at the north end of the valley. It's also now coming up from an iceberg at the south of floating iceberg, which of course all icebergs do float, from the southern end of the valley, and they're all progressing up. They're merging. Quite close to merging, actually. It's a game mechanic that we created because we knew that if we wanted to do a big bad confrontation, or if we wanted to enforce it, or if we just really wanted to, this is the deal, we wanted to make it more likely that the players could encounter the big bad and have a personal reason to do so, or have a personal connection with the big bad. Fine. So we said, okay, faction mechanics are important in this module, important in this campaign. Whatever the players are doing, factions matter. It's good. Wonderful. This is going to be great. Not my problem, Surface Crawler. Yes, and then we immediately gave them a means to ignore these problems going forward, which is, I think, there it is again, that's it. I think that was a good choice. I really think that was a good choice. That's what we did. It was a lot of fun. John Miller says, what do they mean by narrative focus? I'm so confused as to how sandbox play is supposed to conflict with stories or narratives. They're just conflating DM fiat story or narrative railroad with narrative focus. Lame. Yeah, that's kind of the idea here. Because they consider they don't recognize any differences between the two. So if they combine the two, or if they cover them under a big tent, or they use this umbrella term of narrative, container word is the other phrase. It can mean basically anything you want it to. You could say, I over here am doing something that is part of a real game, a game focus. We're focused on the game. Or anytime narrative happens, it is by way of it is privileged by the game. That's how this works. So that's good. And then you have people who are engaged in author branching narrative or railroads, or they're just doing whatever whenever the DM feels like it, and these are not good. His assertions were that random events and encounters would foul things up. That was the person, yeah, definitely the person on the other side of the aisle there. An interesting player, not even a good one, just interested, will naturally give you a whole book's worth of story if you just run a cohesive, functional world for him. This shouldn't be hard. Kind of. Yeah, that's the expectation, but people don't know how to do that in a game. If you wanted people to actually start focusing on a big bad, how would you, quote, make the players do that? Well, you give him something to do in the world, and you don't make it dependent on the players necessarily. Players can they influence the actions of this big bad? Yes, they certainly can. Do they have to? Not necessarily. There's plenty of places they could escape to, plenty of places that they can go to instead. Do they have to engage in direct confrontation? No, they do not. It's a faction game. He's doing things on the faction map. The players can interact with other factions, and they can be the proxy for the players' desire to stop the frost from dominating the valley. And some of them take this approach, some of them go take personal approaches, like lighting these sun shrines to wipe out some of the frost. They're deploying these coral seeds that, for whatever reason, absorb the magic of the frost. Fantastic, at the cost of destroying the local landmass and turning it into a spire of coral that erupts from literally the world below, or the Underdark. So these are solutions, game solutions that we introduce for events that we think are cool in game, but obviously we can't just force the players to engage with them. If I want a player to engage with some conceit of my world, my story, my setting, or some other nonsense, I have to do it through the game. And that's why we don't call it a narrative, we call it a sandbox, or Grand Campaign, or West Marches, or whatever other term Not even author branching narrative at that point. That's the closest to game that you get from the other side of the aisle. Building up a merchant narrative is what some were implicitly against. So the idea that people would be more creative than the tables was pitched quite a few times. It was first pitched as that they were going to be more creative, which I'm sorry is just false. Most people do not have most people are not creative to begin with. Creativity should not be a prerequisite for being able to be a dungeon master. And it never was, as we can see for the past 50 years. However, these dungeon masters that we've had for the past 50 years have been denigrating the actual creativity of the game so that they can claim to be creative, and they have to remove anything about the game that is smarter than them, including often random encounters. I'm sorry, most people when they're making dungeons, one, they do 5-room dungeons. They don't know how to make a dungeon in its entirety. They don't know how to have any kind of like weird breaks, hard gates versus soft gates. They don't understand any principles of level design. They don't understand encounter design by any stretch of the imagination, even though it's the one thing that they engage in most frequently. It's the one piece of the game they engage with most frequently. And yet the same 5 enemies keep popping up in their dungeons. Whereas for AD&D, for instance, you have these massive D100 tables for different floors of the dungeon that you could then combine and mix around with. And if you want to edit like individual results on that table, who cares? But that's not really the point. The point is like, okay, if you are going to where's my dungeon tables? There we go. I have a few of these filled out. So like dungeon level 5. What do we have here? No concerns for ecology, no concerns for what, quote, makes sense, because what makes sense, quote, in a given world is something that you can just justify post hoc. Yeah. Okay, Lucrota, what is that's a kind of demon, isn't it? Or is that a hobgoblin? I actually can't remember. No, it's a demon. Doppelgangers. Oh, that's fun. For a result of 20. That's weird. So we have Rust Monster. There we go. Giant poisonous snake. Where is a giant poisonous snake living? Where does it get its food? Who knows? Who cares? If you care, you can decide after you roll for the giant snake, but you don't have to do a bottom-up construction of the world or things that make sense. God, I really hate the idea of that, like, you have to make like this geologically sound bottom-up like recreation of Earth in order to have a valid setting, or that should be a goal to begin with. Instead, this is something that Mike Merles tweeted about once, actually. It was like, yeah, like, adhering to geographical realism is cool in a lot of ways, but don't be afraid to just, like, to say, well, why is that? To explain a mountain range by way of saying, oh, a king cursed this land once to be cut off from his rule. And so a mountain range erupted from it. Like, remember, we're playing a fantasy game. Fantasy and game, and adherence to realism in some way. I have only seen play out into a real game once or twice. It's acts, basically. It's the only time that simulation has produced a game, because it's so thoroughly simulation-is that it mirrors the game of life, I suppose. It has all these lovely little parallels to the game of life. That's why we like games to begin with. They're cognitive loops that we enjoy because we can move pieces around they're cognitive loops where we can move pieces, digital, physical, or imaginary, either against other people or against the rules, so to speak. That's why they're fun. And each of our moves influences or in some way changes the outcomes available to us versus versus again the rules for the person we're playing against. If I wanted to explore a geologically correct Earth, I'd go outside. Yeah, there it is. Creativity is easier when you stop taking yourself super seriously. Yes, let me go back to that point. I took myself off on a tangent. So, most people are not creative to begin with, but something that even creative people will sometimes struggle with is creative fluency. How quickly, it's not clear to me what creative fluency actually measures, or what portion of creativity it measures. Or if there's some, what I mean to say is, it's not clear to me that creative fluency is reducible beyond the definition that I'm about to give you, which is how quickly can you manifest a prompt, results? How quickly can you produce? It's not the same as being productive, but how quickly can you turn a prompt, a desire for creativity into potential creative output? The classic example is, how many uses can you think of for a brick? Write them down in the next 30 seconds. What did you get? Most people will get the same answers over and over again. A brick is a very dull object, naturally. It's not conducive to creativity. So the more results you get, the more creative things that you think of, the more creatively fluent you are. How many words can you think of and write down in the next minute that start with the letter S? You're probably going to rattle a bunch of them off, but then you're going to taper off. Because while the English language might have hundreds of thousands of words available to us, most speech is contained only within 500 or less. Because for everyday life, you don't necessarily need more than those 500 words. Everything else is a little bit of vanity. And what the game understands is that little bit of vanity, variety as well. So we're going to twist these two concepts and muck them up and hope that something beautiful comes out of it. The game understands that, or is vain about its variety. It understands that, like, okay, you would think to put goblins in the same room again, or kobolds in the same room again, but the presence of a minotaur, which is not ecologically identical to the kobolds, or doesn't necessarily, it's not a smooth match for the kobolds any more than yellow mold is a smooth match for the kobold, or manes, the demons, and an enemy, or sorry, just a, could be of any alignment and could be of any attitude towards the player, NPC party towards the players, and then a bunch of cockatrices. These things don't necessarily mesh well together. Because they don't necessarily mesh well together, or it's smoothly in your head to begin with, you're not going to think of them at all. And so your brain is going to get more and more efficient at chopping off, slicing away the game's variety. And so you don't have anything to be vain about in your game anymore. Except through Herculean effort that you tell other people about, but for some reason nobody else can actually corroborate to begin with. None of your players certainly can corroborate how wonderful your game is. It's about variety. Variety is good. It feels delightful. And sorry, humans struggle to keep more than 7 digits in their head at the same time. And even then, we think it's mostly just keeping 3 digits in your head and then keeping another set of 4. Variety is the spice of life. Yeah, that's how you wowify yourself with one game. Sorry you didn't think of anything creative. You don't have to, because you don't have to be creatively fluent. The game that somebody else has set up is already magnitudes more impressive and complete than anything you have thought up with or could think up in the next few minutes. All you have to do is just roll. All you have to do is just roll. Oh, it's J-Mac in the chat. Hey, how's it going, buddy? So I enjoyed this a lot. I enjoyed the discussion a lot. I think it was I do think it was productive. It gave me an opportunity to think through these concepts in a little bit more of a rigorous and practiced fashion. And the debate prep I did the night prior, I think also helped me develop a little bit more vocal fluency. Can I think of these? Can I think my thoughts and can I? Oh my goodness. Can I pace my thoughts to my sentences so that I could actually complete a sentence, complete a thought in a way that other people can understand, rather than interrupt myself halfway through, which is a nasty habit of mine that I do all the time? Oh, it's annoying. I should be using D1000 encounter tables. It's possible. Phineas says generators. Phineas is the person who coached me through my debate prep, who was doing debate prep for me the prior night. Says generators, like treasure tables, represent a latent space of game states, the distribution of which is determined by the probabilities defined in the generator. Yes. Very well said. I don't even know if I have anything to add to that. JMax says, going well, working on random tables for a game, actually, especially because we'll be running our first test outside friends and family. That's really good. Remember, this will take me to another list of thoughts here. Let me find... Wait, no. I'm just going to take the ThreadReader app version of this. In what seems... I promise this will only seem unrelated. I'm going to tie like 3 other things to this. I'm going to have to do it fast because I do want to end at 8 CST because I do want to raid Mr. Ryan Howard from Rolling Bones and give him like 3 extra viewers. Because he will be on tonight, and he's a delight. The prep versus random table debate is a bit misnamed since prepping generators, then randomly sampling from them, involves prep and randomness. Funny you should mention that. There were a lot of people in the comments, I know I wasn't supposed to be reading those, saying that prep is functionally identical to, and then they changed to saying that actually prep is better than random tables. Of course, it was completely stupid. So that's interesting. What's going on there? Never mind, I'm distracted. Saying that because somebody had actually developed these random tables to begin with, that it was basically identical to prep. And no, it's not, because responding to a prompt that has come from something outside yourself is a fundamentally different experience. It's more fresh, it's more on your feet than deciding on an encounter ahead of time for a number of reasons, one of which we described earlier, which is the fact that people's creative fluency is not up to par. For really creative people, it's not even particularly impressive. Really creative people are going to come up with the same exact uses for a brick and write them all down. It's just that occasionally they come up with something with, I could grind up this brick and I could use it as climbing chalk for my hands. Most of the uses that people are going to come up with are going to match either, something like obstruction device, burglary tool. There's a third one. Murder weapon? Might have been murder weapon. Destruction device, burglary tool, paperweight was the last one. Most of them were going to be within 1 or 2 steps. At most, nearly all of them were going to be within 1 step of these choices. And that's okay. So now back to the thing that we were discussing a moment ago. It's good to play test outside of just friends and family for an obvious reason. Well, maybe an obvious reason. We'll see. Oh, I feel like you're not loading properly. Should fix that. Hello. Phineas says prepping a particular game state, like an encounter, is equivalent to getting a single example from the latent space in your subconscious. Prepping a generator gives you more than just one example, since you can sample from the generator again and again at the table or whenever. Yeah, that's the idea. So it's much more, because you are drawing from a latent space, you're engaging in, sorry, you're engaging with procedure rather than instinct, which is the important part here. We want people to engage with procedure and have good procedures available to them rather than instinct, because if you just rely on instinct, then only people who have an instinct, either for one, good gaming, or two, bullying friends, people who are charismatic, people are can somehow trick or hack the play space of the players' heads into having a fun experience in spite of the refereeing at the table, because they're charming, they're good looking, they have a nice voice. They presented a world that the players find it easy to get invested in. They happen to, by instinct or by fiat, install encounters that the players are personally obsessed with or find just happen to really enjoy to begin with. Or maybe players with lower standards. Do you want your game to be dependent on all of these different individual factors, any one of which could blow up at any moment or change at any moment? People develop taste all the time, even if they're not creative. You might decide your game sucks. Why do we want people to engage with procedure then? Because it's separate from human beings. It is implemented by human beings, but it is it's a component of a bicameral mind, without which I think that the referee is just kind of operating at half capacity, or maybe isn't operating at all. Sorry, you need that side of your brain, and that side of your brain needs to live somewhere else, because what you think you're presenting to other people is not identical to what other people are understanding, or is not identical to the way that other people are understanding you. Basically, your intent in communication has almost nothing to do with how people interpret you, receive your words, and then act accordingly. It has almost nothing to do with that. It has all to do with the way that you word things, right? Have you worded this? It's going to be a weird example. Okay, you're in a relationship and you say, I don't like X. I don't like it when you do X. Okay, well, if you say, I don't like it when you do X for something that annoys you, something that maybe doesn't annoy you, then that's one. If you say it over something that annoys you, one. Two, things that really have no impact on your emotional state, but you just felt like talking and you couldn't like muster up a positive emotion, so you just went with something negative. Or three are like game breakers that are going, deal breakers that are going to end the relationship. Then I have no real reference for what you mean by saying I don't like this. I'm probably going to choose the least common denominator, which is you not liking something. It's like, okay, this is a little bit unpleasant to you. Is that going to change my behavior? Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. Whereas I've said this before, when you do this, I've said I don't like XYZ, and I kind of reserve that for things that I just genuinely do not like. But if I have to go a step further, I might say something like, when you do this, I have a hard time picturing our future together. That's different from saying, I don't like this. And part of the reason it's different from saying, I don't like this, is because I don't like this is more common, more base. It's not really attached, you know, it's the least common denominator. It's like, it's nothing, right? It is a general emotional state that somebody else can hook into immediately and make a quick, like, split second judgment on. Whereas when you do X, I have trouble picturing a future together. I'm talking about how you're doing is affecting me personally and is going to change my behavior in the future. The way that you are acting right now is going to change my behavior in the future. Whereas I don't like this is just, this is my emotional state right this second. I've been temporarily inconvenienced because that's what all I don't like this have in common. But because that's what all I don't like this have in common, all those statements have in common, then it all kind of gets reduced down to the least common solution, which is to maybe stop doing it in the moment, or just kind of like brush past it. You know? Similarly, in games, we were talking about mysteries the other day, and I don't know why this isn't appearing. That's kind of a, it's really, I was about to say kind of annoying. It's really annoying, actually. First, I have some comments remaining. Phineas says, there's a mutual feedback loop where people develop their instincts by seeing examples, then use their instincts to define latent spaces, similar to how good writers read a ton of stuff. Yeah, it seems right. It seems right to me. So to follow up on my tangent, somebody asked why more people don't run investigative games. Rule of Fool asked, not Rule of Fool, sorry. Night Danger asked all on Twitter, what is the no prep people's response to running investigation games? Because those seem like they would require at least a little bit of work beforehand. Now, of course, I'm not no prep. I'm anti no prep. It's stupid. I understand that it started off as a meme, but I've encountered a bunch of people whose campaigns have fallen apart because of this stupid shit. Sorry, the DMG already has advice about this. It's on page 86. Build a town, build a dungeon. Keep building from there. Is construct a library of game content that you can pull out of your hat, but construct it at the pace of, or maybe slightly ahead of, the player's actions in the campaign. Fantastic advice. It's what your first adventure and your first adventure the adventure checklist video are all about. This is super simple. Here's what this means in practice. Enjoy. So we do so I'm not no prep by any stretch of the imagination. However, I started talking shit about mysteries. Because mysteries suck, generally speaking. But that's not actually true. What sucks about mysteries is that bad artists really like mysteries. It's a bit like how horror has like the lowest barrier to entry, because if you want to do horror, you can just throw a bunch of murder and gore and blood and guts into it and make something that people at least recognize. Make a movie or other piece of content that people think they might enjoy at a glance. Because a lot of my favorite movies have some blood and guts to them. My favorite movie is John Carpenter's The Thing. Easy. Easy. So if I see blood and guts somewhere else, a good chance that I might enjoy it. Alright, it's not completely unreasonable in the slightest. However, when it comes to mysteries, bad artists really like mysteries because they interpret the success state of a mystery as the audience asking questions. And it feels good to have questions asked about your content. If somebody starts asking questions about your world or about your city or campaign state or whatever have you, like that feels really good. It feels good. It's like, oh man, they're invested in the work. So while that might be a natural side effect, asking questions might be a side effect to a good mystery writer, a bad mystery writer starts seeing that as the goal. So they start taking away from what would have otherwise been a perfectly serviceable narrative, or they might do worse. They might not have a perfectly serviceable narrative. They might not have a narrative to begin with at all, and decide that they will compensate by having you ask questions, except they're not actually deciding this. It's not really a choice that they're making, because they don't have a narrative to begin with. They just see asking questions as the victory state, the win state of their writing. Where does this tie into tabletop RPGs? Well, I already don't know what's in the world. I'm already, as a player, I'm already confused and kind of seeing through glass darkly against your world, against the campaign properly. However, or I should say, because I can't verify the integrity of the campaign, questions exist to clarify individual elements of things that have individual pieces of the campaign that have possibly gone wrong. Totally fine, right? That's good. Hey, you said that this guy has blind sight, true sight, or something like that. Does he have it out to where I am? Do I have advantage? Could this guy have actually hit me, or could he have directed his allies to hit me? Because he's not around there anymore. Does anybody else have true sight? Oh, shoot. No. Yes, he does, or somebody else has true sight, so that attack did go through. Or no, there isn't a creature with true sight here that could see through your invisibilities, and thus can't direct attacks to your location. So, no, go ahead and mark that damage off. That's what questions are for. They are a tool of recovery from the game's fail states. Maybe I can negotiate forward. Asking questions is a means of kind of negotiating with a fail state that you've either already experienced or you're about to experience. Very separate from bad mystery writers, and this is where it ties into RPGs for real, is that I'm sorry, I really don't want to turn the game proper into I don't know, man. I don't want to turn the entirety of the game that used to be about, like, kicking down doors and killing goblins and stealing their magic items, into just asking the DM questions and then staring at him as he stares off into space and thinks of an answer. Because while that is entertaining, that kind of lonely fun is entertaining for you, the DM, you feel engaged. You feel like the game is progressing because you're currently engaged in it. Everybody else is actually you've put it on pause for everybody else every time somebody asks you a question. But of course, now the win state of the game is locked behind asking you questions. So every time the players want to progress, they have to pause the game and then wait for you to unpause it and react to them. That sucks. That's terrible. And it doesn't feel bad as the person who's in charge of the mystery, because the players are asking you questions and you are thinking of answers to those questions. It feels good and right to you. However, from the perspective of a person living, breathing, thinking outside of yourself, they can't detect the gears turning in your head. Even if they can't experience it in the same way that you are at that moment. So you're the one experiencing the media. You're the one experiencing the content. You're the one experiencing the mystery. You're the one experiencing the game. Right? So you can't do a mystery that way. It sucks. Or at the very least, well, you can do a mystery that way. It's the easiest way to do a mystery, and it's why mysteries often suck. It's because people who suck are drawn to the medium, or drawn to this particular genre. Now, could you do a mystery that's going to be in some way involved with that? Could you do a mystery that was in some way built on the idea that you know virtually all the components that you need to know, or else you can reliably... Can you build a mystery off the idea that you have all the evidence you need, or at the very least, that you can guarantee some kind of return on evidence? Like, collecting evidence is a move, and then the bad guy or the criminal, the rival investigator, the interloping party have something, the victim on occasion have some means of playing a different move that's going to in some way influence your evidence. Maybe it's evident, maybe you collect the evidence, but it's inadmissible in court. Whatever. You collect the evidence, you get to see the evidence, you have knowledge of what happened, but the evidence gets lost to you through some means, right? That's a game. That's the beginnings, that's the makings of a game. So can you play a mystery like that? Sure, you can, but D&D isn't going to do it as often because it's not really built for that kind of stuff. Or I shouldn't say it's not really built for it. Could I invent a detective class for AD&D? I could. And I could make it half decent. I could make it at the very least novel and interesting at first glance. I don't think that would be terribly difficult. For God's sake, I turned the city encounters tables into a game of Uno. And kind of connected them, basically built a social combat system. It wasn't really... It's not combat, of course, I'm just saying that because combat is a set of cognitive loops that are at play at the table and people moving their pieces around and deploying different game elements against other characters, other players, against the rules themselves. And so I just built a competing system with not the same amount of depth by any stretch of the imagination, but built a foundation of similar depth for social play. Could I do that for detective in AD&D? Sure, I can. I can do a follow-up to Seven Willows because it has the Seven system, has the notes subsystem where you have to write something down and it has to be a certain number of words. It's 100 words. You can deploy. You don't know if the note is correct until you deploy it in some other action and substitute the roll, basically. And you got it. And you collect either if the roll is successful, congratulations, you collect a success. If it wasn't successful, then boo-hoo, that sucks. That means your entire note is out. You can't use that. You can't anything that you speculated on in that note is now gone, which is the bounce mechanic. It's functionally, you're flipping a coin to decide whether or not this piece of lore that you invented about the game itself and the way it works or the setting it's in is true. And so every time you come up with a cool idea, you're forced to immediately gamble on it inside of the note system. And that was actually, while I developed that for a game focused on my version of Rangers, it's Seven Willows, that would port nicely over to a game that was even more focused on the note system than Seven Willows was. Seven Smokes. Seven Pipes, whatever you want to... Something, Seven Sherlocks. Seven P-Caps, whatever you want to call it. I think that would be fun, sure, but I'm going to try it out for AD&D first. And this is going to be the beginnings of the Substack, I believe, because this is basically a ready-made Substack post. I have to clean it up, take out a bunch of names and ats and such. And I really continued for a while. I thought of it, of course, because there was this is basically the issue with ISOM. This is the issue with the book that I wrote back in 2019, Eyes of the Forest. I keep using these weird... And the comic book follow-up that I did, I think, in 2022. It sucked. It wasn't because the art was fantastic. I loved it. But my writing sucks. Because I knew where all the pieces were at all times. And because I knew where all the pieces were at all times, I thought I could just reference those pieces and occasionally be vague about them, and the audience would still be interested in figuring out the answers to these pointless vagaries. And that would mean they were engaged. And so I could just have them focus on the person behind this pronoun that I'm using. They are coming. What do you mean by they? Oh man, it's gonna be such a big reveal when they find out it's the country. I meant soldiers of the country next door are coming. They are coming. Well, one of these has a lot of drama inherent in it, and I think immediately encourages the reader to desire or to seek out some kind of payoff for it, and the other one is just vague. And maybe ask the reader to ask a question of their own, sure, but it's not important. It's not interesting. It's not. It has nothing to do with drama. I've made drama impossible by writing like this. JMax says that's the tricky part of writing, finding that sweet spot of enough information but not too much. Yep, that's the key, and that's why that sweet spot in mysteries again relies on having a game. Can the players? The reason mysteries suck in tabletop RPGs is because we just don't have mechanics for players engaging with the mystery. Which is not to say that all deduction mechanics would work. Deduction mechanics in video games often suck. They're often really, really, really terrible. But in tabletop RPGs, the bare minimum for interacting with the game is to have some set, reliable procedures. Not set in stone procedures necessarily. I like attack rolls. Okay, every time I roll an attack, I roll a hit, right? If I'm going to attack somebody, I have to roll a hit, and then if I hit, I get to deal some damage. But there might be something that modifies that damage, right? My buddy might cast a spell that, or do a maneuver or something like that lets me do half damage, even if I miss, and the enemy that I'm fighting might not take any kind of damage from the type of damage that my weapon deals, so on and so on and so forth. That's a game, but the foundation is reliable procedure, random elements, or high variance in the element. Yeah, reliable procedure, high variance in subjects of those procedures, which means high variance in outcomes. Not necessarily outcomes, right? High variance of experience. In the meantime, right? Most combats end with the players winning because it's just how that kind of has to go. Yeah, most of the time. But the experience of combat in the meantime can be higher variance because you're attacking monsters with different features, different abilities, whatever have you. And so you need a parallel when it comes to mysteries. I thought of my book and why it sucks because I was recently talking about ISOM again because my girlfriend's a writer, and I'm really hoping that she doesn't make similar mistakes to what I made and what I did, whatever July did, and whatever July did again, and then whatever July did a third time. Got really upset about the fact that he did it so often and just kept fucking doubling down for no apparent reason. Don't want her to repeat those mistakes. I want to go through Eyes of the Forest and just completely redline the entire thing. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, it's frustrating. These superhero cops are following this one lady, but they're never going to say what she did or why they're following her ever at any time. They'll never say what happens if they don't find her. They'll never say what's at stake. They'll never even say her name while talking about her, even though the audience knows her name, or they're going to know her name in like 2 pages. We're going to say her. So we can get the big reveal that the cops weren't actually talking about somebody else. Is that storytelling? Is that drama? Tension plus tension and resolution? No, it's not. Watch my main protagonist run a bunch of errands. Sorry, actually, watch my 4 protagonists run a bunch of errands. With only some vague idea of what's at stake. And the vague idea of what's at stake is like, alright, well, there's a city, my homeland, they're going to be in big trouble if we don't deal with these guys here. If these guys who are coming after me and trying to tempt me with with helping them out. If they get what they want, then maybe the city that threw me out onto my ass is going to get destroyed. Wow, that's so quirky. What a fascinating premise I came up with in 2019. Well, in 2017, it took me 2 years to write that novelette. Cool. Awesome. It's very quirky. A thing that you don't get, that the reader is encouraged not to care about, is under threat. It's going to be really cool and quirky when the protagonist decides to not do the obvious, not make the obvious choice and screw over his homeland. It's so cool. It's like, no, that's just my... It seems cool to me because it's like so random, but like to the reader, it's just in this story about nothing and this guy running errands all day, it's just my hand appearing on the page and pointing to a bunch of words and saying, see, reader, see what I did? It's like, all right, cool. That's not really storytelling. They threw out my homeland, threw me out of my ass, and my fiance's back there, and she's got like she's got fucking e-cups back there. If they blow up my city, I'm never gonna get back to my fiance. I gotta get back to my fiance. I'm never gonna get back to her if they blow up my fucking city. I gotta make sure that these guys don't blow up my asshole city because my girlfriend's stuck back there. Okay, that's something that people can like sympathize with. That's drama. Anyways. And there's ways to do it. I look forward to translating a bunch of Jonathan Ingold's work. What's the smell? That smell is. I look forward to translating a bunch of Jonathan Ingold's work to tabletop RPGs because I think he's a really clever person who's basically rejected the conceits of tabletop RPGs in video games. She has a great personality. Landau. I don't know who that is. You say, what is this? I don't know what you're referring to. This is a stream. I'm talking about a long Twitter thread that I left on Twitter. And speaking of which, I'm going to deploy this in the chat so that y'all can view it. I'm also going to deploy the Substack here. There's nothing on it, and will not be until next Tuesday, when you guys can actually view this stuff. It's Tuesday? Do I want to make my posts on Tuesday? No, I think I want to do my videos on Tuesday. Yeah, I want to do videos on Tuesday. I think what I want people to do is enjoy these. I want them to enjoy my posts. I think on Friday. I think that'd be good. This Friday's my off day. Here's the Substack. Speaking of procedure and the fun things that you could do with procedure, I have been loving FTL recently, so now we're going to go to the portion of the stream where I play a video game. Hello. Why are you stuck like this? Aha! There we go. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that worked. And we're going to change what I'm looking at. Firefox, that's not going to work. yeah, so people in the chat, what did you think about the thread on mysteries? Was I making sense? Did any of that make sense? Have you guys actually had any kind of have you guys actually enjoyed an investigation themed plotline or thread or adventure inside of a tabletop RPG? Phineas, I know that Phineas plays Call of Cthulhu on occasion. I think I'm not confusing you with somebody else. All right. Transform. You're not capturing for some reason. That seems a little odd. How about now? Yeah, there we go. Now it's working. Cool. Just gonna slide you in here, make sure this works. Cool. So FTL is a game that has been carrying my recent Traveler obsession and Nebula's Fleet Command obsession. Easy to play. It's a roguelike where your objective is to get to the end of a series of maps and bring some very important vital data to the remaining Federation fleet against the advancing rebels who are chasing you the entire time. There's a ton of different random encounters that you can find. There are shops or different strategic choices that you need to make both. Sorry. There are different strategic choices you need to make while you're jumping from place to place. Like, there are no shops in range here. I can see a distress call. Distress calls are interesting authored encounters. There are a few different options available to me each time I come across them, but they could also be traps for pretty nasty combats. They could also be other negative effects. And then each of these nodes, I don't know anything about them, so it could just be nothing, it could be a random encounter, it could be a fight. Sometimes I could go across a nebula. If I go across a nebula, that it will make the fleet pursuit slower, but it will also disrupt my sensors as I'm moving along. And there are other environmental effects that you could only encounter inside the nebula. So that's important. I'm going to go to distress because we are not cowards. Hey, we used our last FTL fuel to jump to the station. They indicate a burnt-out husk of debris and warp metal. As you can see, the war must have spread to this sector. We've been stranded ever since. I can give them fuel, or I can apologize, wish them luck, and move on. I have 13 fuel. They want 4. I will give it to them. Oh, nice. They gave me 30 scrap, which is actually quite a bit. That's good, because I need a lot of scrap to repair my ailing hull here. And for other purposes. Can I upgrade this twice? I can't. But at the very least I could have this. Another strategic choice, how do you upgrade your ship? What crew members do you keep around? What kind of I need all of these bars to be increased today, now. But I have a limited amount of scrap. In what order do I pursue my upgrades? Important choice. Hoping I could have some random encounters here. Okay, nothing here. That's also an option, is finding nothing. Oh. I have to be careful about how I do this. If I go down to you, and you, then you, I don't think I will get caught by the fleet. But I need to do something before I reach the store, or else I'm not going to have enough scrap to restore myself. Is that the case? Do I have anything I could sell? Not really. Not really, no. I don't really have much I could actually sell here. Yeah, screw it. I need the money. But depending... Alright, so we have a combat encounter. This is probably the worst one I could have come across. They do not have any missiles. That's important, because the fact that they do not have any missiles means I might not immediately die. Because they're probably not going to bypass my shields. That's good. I'm happy. Not enough power. That's fine. We need a lot of power. Not for this, anyways. Tempted, because I could run this. Ion damage 1. Screw it, let's see what we got. I have literally 3 health. Depending on what kind of gun this guy uses, I might just be dead here. Oh, nice. I missed. I get through this big nonsense shield and not be screwed myself. I just need to disable weapons as soon as possible, assuming that this... Oh, that didn't kill me. Nice. So I'm going to teleport my boys over now, and I'm going to have them start wrecking the house. House? Working shop, maybe. Worked out nicely. Okay, I've kept them now from actually continuing to smack me. At least on the regular. Okay, that's one down. Oh, I just killed everybody aboard. I don't even have to blow up the ship. That's nice. I had a little bit of scrap. I don't know if it was worth the massive risk I was taking to actually maybe get my ship blown up in the process, but I didn't end up dying, so who cares? Let's see what we got. got 2 pages. You have a few people to hire. These are mantis folk who have, what do they? They have a little bit of a faster move speed. They do not. They have a halved repair speed, and they inflict time and a half damage in combat. They're pretty cool, but I don't have money for them right now. Distraction buoys. That's not really as useful to me. Let's see. Leave a false signal at sector start to delay the rebels 1 jump, so it delays their pursuit a little while. Not really as useful, unfortunately. Okay, I have one thing that does actual damage here. I should probably not give that up. This healing burst item really is nice. There's a bunch of good weapons here. I like all of these. I just can't really use them. Okay, so I have nothing to sell. So yeah, nope, we're gonna go all the way. Yep, just gonna dump everything into hopefully not dying here. Ooh, I made the wrong choice, I'm pretty sure. Crap. I thought that one of these stations nearby connected. I thought I had a connecting flight. And I do not. Why did I think that? Why did I think that I could jump from here to here? I thought that one of these had a jump over. Oh man, that was a bad decision. It was a bad decision I just made. So now I get to experience this. Okay, first things first, I don't want them to use weapons. Nope, don't want them to use weapons, so that's just got to be off the table for the moment. My oxygen's at 36% here, meaning that I am going to have an even more difficult time actually keeping myself together and alive. I have a hacking system, so I could temporarily shut down the systems of the other ship. And recently, my play has been to send these 2 guys. They're Gelatinous, which means they drain oxygen from the local room, which obviously means that they don't need to breathe, so they're fine. The room that's been drained of oxygen will deal damage to all other life forms, so I have to keep them secluded, but I don't really have to worry about that. If I'm teleporting them to the enemy ship, that's a lot of fun. So sometimes I kill enemy ships by draining all of the oxygen or setting it on fire, just otherwise killing the enemy crew. I don't have to worry about destroying the entire ship. I don't have to worry about these guys having big screw-off shields. Probably. I wouldn't be able to bypass these shields. I would not be able to bypass these shields until I disabled them either for an extended period of time, which only one of these weapons can do, or if I had these guys run in and destroy them. I could jam the shields and keep them from going off. I could drain all of their energy, but then one of these weapons has to fire in time in order to actually do that. And then I don't get to see how much charge the weapons have. It's not worth it. I have there's so much other stuff here that could kill me at any given moment that I really don't want to risk it. They're gonna kill that guy pretty quickly, I think. Ouch. That's going to cause problems. Big problems. Problems plural. Ugh. Yep, that hurts. On the bright side, I think I can stop them from... Oh, I just stunned my own guys. Alright, that kind of sucks. Knocks out the charge at the very least. Oh wait, I don't have to stay here. I don't actually have to kill these guys. I just get to get out. I can do that now. I will be doing that now. And hopefully the next place doesn't have another fight for me. It does not. It just had a kind of crappy trade, but whatever. I have these guys repair my systems now. I didn't take too much damage. In fact, I barely took any at all. Really negligible. Cool. That's been taken care of. Anything else I want to upgrade in the meantime? I don't think that there is. Those two are now healed up to full. I need to find the exit buoy, which is literally the next jump over, and we're pixel bitching at the moment because the rebel fleet is really, really close. That's okay. Unless I was an idiot and decided to go to this location for no reason, instead of just the exit right in front of me, you don't have to worry about it. Come across a large trade station. However, as soon as you approach, a warning goes out to all ships in the region. Do not associate with the Federation's sympathizer. All who oppose the rebels will be punished. Search among the stores to see if someone will sell to you. Yeah. Cool. Alright, I apparently spoke to the wrong person in my search for a store. Warnings go off, and I detect an automated rebel ship moving into attack. I'm totally fine with that. Because among other things, this doesn't have any shields. This is going to be easy. Now, automated ships do not need oxygen in them for obvious reasons, so they have no air, and so they're relatively easy to kill from the inside. Well, they're not piloted, so you don't have to worry about any enemy crew, basically. So they're easy to kill from the inside. However, they don't have any air. That is not a problem for these guys. And now they can run over and finish killing this. I'll teleport my boys back over and finish off the enemy ship. Easy. It's good to play risky in this game. Well, all games, really, but in this game especially. Okay, so now I have the sector map. Do I want to go to a nebula? Where it's going to be... Most of the map is a nebula. I just shut down my sensors most of the time. But there's a bunch of cool hidden stuff in there. Or do I want to go this way? I want to go to another friendly well, not friendly, it's just civilian location. Arrive in Zoltan space. From what you have heard, they anticipated the coming war and made preparations to hold their borders. Well, I hope they're all nice to me. You come to a Zoltan trade and supply hub. Everything the weary traveler needs, provided they have the right documentation. I could try to talk my way in, or I could use my teleporter and beam directly to the civilian deck. I only have this option in blue because I have a teleporter. I rematerialize in a dark corner of the main concourse, and I'm able to conduct my investigations in peace. You head into the cantina for gossip. Topics of conversation in the cantina range from crop distribution, microbes, to the joys of slug pleasure cruises. You overhear one of the groups discussing a newly discovered planet yet to have first contact, and note down its location. A quest marker. Okay. And it's really close by. I like the sound of that. I am running out of fuel. Zoltan's ship is waiting at this beacon. They request my identification, but radiation from the sun in this system is disrupting my comms. They take my silence for aggression and move in to attack. That's not good. What kind of weapons do these guys have? They've got a big screw-off beam cannon there. That's not going to be good for me. And a... I had to go with this strategy again. It's really annoying. Might as well depower these systems. I have like this big super shield thing that so I can't actually... I'm not allowed to teleport people in. Wait, no, super shield prevents teleporting. Okay. So I can't teleport in, I can't send my drone in. I just have to sit here and take it. Oh, that's not good. You two are going down there now. Two misses. All right, we're good. We're good. Well, we're not good. By any stretch of the imagination, we're just not as bad off as we possibly could be. There it is. Okay, now I can lock their weapons up. Actually, how close are these weapons to charging? Maybe I don't lock their weapons up. Maybe I drain the shields. Yeah, I think we're going to drain the shields. Among other things, I think shields are a little bit easier for these guys to access. This damn game, I swear. Bonbon der jitter. Bonbon. Bonbon de jour. Send my guys in to start destroying this thing. JDR means role-playing game in French. Ooh, interesting. Oh, that's probably the most annoying place this could have hit. Okay, so I just fired a ion weapon that ended up stunning my own crew, which was totally fine because they are slowly draining the rest of the oxygen out of that room. So I don't mind if everybody's stunned because they do not take damage from drained oxygen, whereas the other crew, well, the enemy does. Screw them. How you been, Bonbon? So that thing's just firing an ion, whatever, over and over again. Which cannot hurt me now, because I have opened it up. But I suck the oxygen out of another room. How's it going, Elfinder? You came at the end of the stream. I think it's going to finish up at around 8. So when I click end, I wonder if it's going to send you guys directly over. Oh, hi. No more life signs remaining on the ship. I might have to replay that game myself since I'm planning a short D&D campaign of a similar scenario. Star Wars plus Alan Wake kind of stuff. Yes, you should. Interesting. Well, and darn, I just woke up. Oh, that's unfortunate. But yeah, I think this is going to be... Right now I'm using this game as a proxy for a bunch of other stuff I'm doing in my current campaign. The Chomas Valley campaign is taking a brief hiatus. Well, not really a hiatus. It's just a lot of the most popular players are going into space, doing some spell jamming. So naturally, I'm just stealing encounters from this. And finally using Astral Tides, that book I also wrote back in 2019? Yeah, 2019. Which is, of course, my own version of... my own... God, I really Maddox that one. My own version. That was my own version of Spelljammer, of course. Am I near a store? No. I am not near a store. And I find myself in need of refreshments. By which I mean more energy bars. I should definitely start working towards that next shield bar. That would be really handy to have. In fact, I should probably focus on that shield bar to the exclusion of the thing that I actually want, which is another weapon slot. Your mom's a weapon slot. Pretty cool. I hope that your players have fun spell jamming. They're having fun so far. The first session was get to not space. Get to the adjacent plane called the Aether. Not the Ether, the Aether. A nice little cloud realm with a bunch of floating islands constantly spinning and occasionally hellish cyclones and lots of really dangerous higher level enemies. It's a higher level zone because of course it's extraplanar. It should be for the players to adventure in. That's from there the players have to find transport into the astral tides, a bunch of starry currents that flow together under all the starlight of the world, a parallel plane to space proper. Please tell me I can get back to that distress call. I can! Excellent! Maybe. My sensors have picked up a refugee ship drifting through the system, no doubt one of many fleeing the rebel advance. It doesn't appear to have detected you, or else it is trying to avoid notice. Hail them or ignore the refugees. Well, this virtually always results in a fight. What? The vessel is relieved to hear from me. They are running low on supplies, and they suggest a trade. Well, I'm going to be running low on supply. Well, I'm already kind of running low. Running really low on fuel. I need a hacking drone for, like, each of these is, like, good for one fight. God, I hope I can get to that store in time. I'm looking a little low on hit points again. I arrived to find a lumbering Zoltan freighter with no one at the helm. It's a mystery what happened to the crew, but it'd be a shame to let the opportunity go to waste. Cool. Alright, yeah, I'll take it. I'm not I'm not stupid. I'm not going to say no to a free lunch. It's encounters like that that I think that are simple, just interruptions to the game that kind of imply or hint at a wider procedural storytelling or wider procedural kind of wide procedural exposure of a wider campaign map, a wider campaign ecology that players can interact with and manipulate. But because it's delivered in bite-sized chunks of content from buckets of content, this is from the world map bucket. But when I go over, the quest is from the world map bucket, right? That's something that's a kind of encounter that I need to come. That requires me to hit it in one node and only reach the conclusion in another node. So it lives in the bucket of quests. And then you have distress calls, which live in the bucket of, again, those are more singular. That's kind of in the world map, but also kind of not. They're not distress calls are not exposed to me until I'm within one jump of them. They're stores. But the content that lives in the store bucket is like specialty crew members that I can purchase and weapons. Can I translate that to D&D? I think not only can I think it's probably easy. But let's see what this next place has for me. I really am forced to make like a, what is it called? High time preference? Yeah, high time preference. I really value the now. I have to make high time preference decisions. Is that, somebody tell me if that's accurate? I always get them confused. So I know why I get them confused, because low is negative. Low has like a negative connotation. You arrive at the primitive planet that you heard about at the cantina and are surprised to see a Zoltan ship facing off against a rebel assault craft. You tap into their frequency and hear the rebel captain yelling, "We are liberating this planet in the name of the new galactic government. These aliens will not be left in ignorance where they cannot be of use." I can interfere and make first contact with the primitive aliens, or I can, to protect the aliens' way of life, attack the rebel ship. Am I doing this because I'm a good person? No. I'm attacking these people because it's funny. And will provide me with loot. I'm going to turn off the O2 sensors, or the O2 systems, so that I can provide myself with heals. Is it really the Star Trek option? Isn't that something that they break, like, every 10 minutes? This is tricky. That's a big hull missile. That's going to really screw me over if it hits. It's Dominion propaganda and you know it. Oh no. So I have two options here. When I hack a system, when I hack a room, it begins... Oh, wait! Crap. I could do something really funny. So when I hack a system, it gives me an option depending on the type of system that I hack. The most obvious one is draining power. So if I hit the weapon system with the hacking ability, then it allows me to start draining that. It allows me to begin draining the weapon. Right? It can't be used anymore. However, occasionally it reverses the function. So if I hit the O2 system, if I hit the oxygen system, it will actually temporarily drain the enemy ship of oxygen, and will do it for quite some time. It'll also let me see the overall oxygen level of the ship. Because of this upgrade, it will take it on a scale from 1 to 100, this will take it from 100 to about 75 or less. No, I think it takes it at 2 bars. I think it takes it to about like a 60 or less. But then it begins replenishing the system again, which is a little... whatever. Something else I could do is I could hack their medbay. What that does is it temporarily causes the medbay to damage instead of heal enemy crew. Now the interesting thing about hacking is that it temporarily locks all of the doors to that system. So if I hit the medbay, and I have my 2 guys teleport into the O2 system, everybody on this ship will they will do 2 things. One, they will immediately rush over to the closest room, the closest accessible. They will immediately rush towards my crew members that I'm teleporting over, which are in the O2 system. If I lock this room up by hacking it, then they will be forced to first break into the medbay, spend some time there, and then I can reverse the medbay's effect and start damaging the crew, giving my guys time to destroy the oxygen system, which they can't repair because they're in the medbay getting harmed. The oxygen system will get destroyed. It will begin draining from the rest of the ship. And they are very likely to die pretty quickly here. Provided I'm extremely aggressive. The problem is twofold. One, they have a big screw-off set of guns over there. And I don't think I'm gonna get a chance to shoot first. Not only do they have a missile that's going to bypass my shields, but they also have this drone here, and they have a standard laser cannon that might have like 1 or 2 shots. If that missile hits my shields, it'll take it out instantly. I'll be screwed. That drone will kill me in probably about 10 seconds. But if I go for the O2, then I have a chance to make them stop shooting at you. No, I don't, is the thing. The weapon systems will continue firing as long as they have charge, they'll continue shooting me. I have to kill the crew. I don't know how many there are. I would have to kill the crew faster. Their ship doesn't work the same way as ours. Here's the thing, they still have a chance to live. They still, they drain health once the O2 is out. The point of hacking the medbay is that it's going to destroy the, it's going to kill them slightly faster. But it might not kill all of them. Certainly not immediately. Because this medbay can only hold 2 people. I think I have to destroy the weapon system first. Or at the very least, I have to drain the weapon system first. Where I teleport these guys, that is up to me. So I could teleport, I could teleport these guys over to the O2 system and have them blow up the O2 system. That would give me some time. they're probably going to start fighting other guys quickly, but I mean, they're pretty good close quarters fighters. Like, not only do they, yeah, 20% more crew damage, not only does that give them like a massive advantage in a 1v1, they also drain the oxygen from the room, so it kills the enemy even faster. Yeah, screw it. I'm going to teleport them to the enemy medbay. No, that's bad. Because if I teleport them to the enemy medbay, then the enemy's going to be healing while they're in the medbay. I don't want them to do that. I want them to... Aha! Now, this is the other thing. This is the other thing I wanted to do. So I dragged them out of their favorite spot. And now the doors are locked. Okay, this worked out nicely. This worked out really nicely. So I dragged the enemy crew over to the left side of the ship. I had my guys run past them while this was getting hacked. Nice. Okay, we're doing good. And then I stunned the interior of their ship in here. I'm going to make a heal bomb go off. That'll help my guys out. I think I'm also going to stun this, something blow up? I don't think so. Okay, so their drone systems are no longer nearly as active. That's good. There we are. I stunned them inside this room, which stuns my own guys as well, but that's okay, I don't care. As it kills... Because they don't need to breathe, and the enemy does, except they have a anti-boarding drone on board. That they're putting to pretty good use here. At this point, these guys are looking pretty screwed to me. Don't blow up their shields just yet. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need to stun the medbay and keep it from working while these guys are just killed by oxygen drain. Cool. Zoltan Hale, once the smoke disperses, thank you. We were led to believe Federation ideals died along with the Federation itself. Let us aid you a little for old time's sake. You accept their reward and scrap, then collect some remains from the rebel ship. Nice. Oh, also my guys are dying because I don't have enough oxygen inside, and they need that to live. Please do not die. Let's group these guys together and give them a heal bomb. Turning out to be a pretty effective and handy piece of equipment. Because it bypasses shield, so I could be like, oh, let me make it, let me... I think I want my guys to live here. A repair bomb. Self-teleporting unit that floods a room with nanobots capable of completely repairing all system damage. Costs 1 missile. Requires 1 power. Has a charge time. 14 seconds, but it removes 8 system damage immediately. That's a lot, especially considering that like the highest power system I have here is like weapons, and that has like 5 bars on it. That's pretty impressive. Okay, I have 1 stop before the store. I have 1 stop before the store, and that will be where we close this off, so I can go raid Rolling Bones channel. You guys can enjoy some actually quality content. Let's turn on the cloning bay so I could slightly heal my buddies. So at some point I'm going to have to buff oxygen supply. I'm going to have to collect some... No, I think I need to buff it at this point, because at the moment, if this takes basically any damage, it goes down very quickly. Okay, so what do we have for the next fight? I still have 1 drone part for the next fight. If it turns out to be a fight. It was not. It's people... It's a trader offering 3 drone parts if I give him 2 missiles. Which is a tremendous trade. I could go into that nebula first and collect some additional scrap. It could also be the end of me. And now that I say it like that, I don't have a choice. Oh, there was nothing in there. I just wasted some fuel. Alright, well, that kind of sucks. Oh well. I slowed down the fleet a little bit. It wasn't the pursuing fleet. It wasn't like a complete waste. You know. Yeah, there's like some not bad stuff here. Drone system, any good weapon system, laser charger. This laser weapon could charge 2 times, giving it an additional projectile. Charge time is 6 seconds. The maximum number of charge shots are 2. What would I give up for that weapon? I don't know if there's a lot that I want to give up for that weapon. I don't think that's a good idea. Get some drone control if I gave up something else. What would I like to sell out of my wares here? Nothing. I think I need them all. I think I just need to do the responsible thing and fix my ship. I could sell this ion stunner. I think that would be a good idea. If I sell the ion stunner and buy a repair arm, it's going to slightly reduce the amount of scrap that I recover, but more importantly, it's going to fix my ship just about every single time that I come through. Every time I get scrap from just about anything. I mean, that feels worth it. I wish I had a drone system. That would be nice, but it's one of the most expensive repairs. And again, I'm forced, based on the fact that I keep getting smacked on the regular. Drone systems will come up again. I'm only like halfway through the sector map. Stop pulling at these beard hairs. I feel like there's my yanking at the ones that like her all raggily. As if I'm not describing the entire beard. But that was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for hanging out, and I think I'm gonna bounce at this point. I want folks to check out Get in the Ring with Rollin' Bones.
My business partner in Guts and Glory.
He's
and,
just getting started.
My partner in crime in life. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Wonky.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me once again, Mr. Bonehead.
All right, go show Ryan Howard some love. He's having a good time. I really like his energy with Wonky, and I think they're just... Ryan needed a co-host. Wonky's a really good co-host. Ryan did not need a co-host. I think Ryan greatly benefits from a co-host. He's even more entertaining than he normally is. Which is a high bar, because he's extremely entertaining as is.
About the aesthetic qualities of role-playing books. And there's a lot of ground to cover on this particular topic. With you being an artist and with me kind of taking my first steps into this world, not just of writing, but of visual design, as I've done a little bit
I think
of
if I just
already,
press end stream, it's going to send you
let's
guys
talk
over.
a little bit about our
Let's-
inspiration. So let's begin
let's do
with
it.
you. As far as the
Stream will stop
aesthetics
immediately.
of
Anyone
your
who's watching will
work
be sent
and
here. Yes!
books and
It is
things like
time.
that, where do you
Go say
draw
hello
some
to
of
him.
your biggest influence?